I don't really care about whether someone is, like 100 people know about a band or 1 million people know about a band. I just don't think it's important. It's like whether you like it or not. There's an audience
Exactly.
for it.
I agree 100%, man. It's all about the music. And I actually I'm a pretty big defender of Ghost. I just have a really big issue with, it's like the same people who shit on Ghost are the ones, who've seen Kiss 200 times. It's like you
Yeah,
realize Ghost did what Kiss did, but better, It's like go
yeah,
listen to Lick It Up again. It's like, are you kidding me, man?
yeah,
At least
yeah,
their pop stuff actually is like in character with the band and like is a really good evolution of their own sound and is like a
yeah.
really good way of like making it mainstream but not completely selling out, I think. And
I
still like
agree.
maintaining their specific sound. Where Kiss literally did the exact same thing, but in my opinion, a little more scummy and a little more, selling out.
Yeah.
Both, I love both bands, don't get me wrong, but
Oh, I agree. My first
yeah.
concert was Kiss in middle school. So,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people will say someone is selling out just because they're making music people like. And I just personally, like, I don't care. I don't care if they even like fully went away from like a heavy sound. I wouldn't even really care as long as it's good. So, I mean, and it's the funny thing is like people say they're not metal, and it's like, okay, well, they still have heavy riffs, like, they still have heavy elements to their music. So whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter as long as you like it, and I like it. So, and a lot of other people like it, and therefore I get work. So, I
Yeah,
mean, at the end of the
well,
day, I hate to be like that, but like I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's like who's laughing, it's
yeah. Well, and you can get work and enjoy the music at the same time,
yeah,
And it's like, I think I kind of like the idea of like each album is like very unique and on its own.
I
And
agree.
even like the new record like has a lot of metal elements to it. So like to
Yeah.
call it to people to say it's a pop album is like, come on, are you kidding me, man? It's like I
Yeah.
know pop albums and that's not even close to it. Personally, I know I even have like kind of like a metal podcast and this actually was
Yeah.
supposed to be a doom metal podcast.
Hmm.
But I did, but apparently doom metal people, they hate doing interviews or any kind of
Yeah.
podcast. But I personally, I don't think there's any, people say they listen to everything and they don't really mean it. I think
No.
other than K-pop, I really am open to like most and pretty much every genre of music. I think there's something to be loved in every genre. And I think the more
Yeah.
genres you take in, as a listener, the more you can appreciate some of your favorite bands and albums and whatnot. And I
Yeah.
wish metalheads kind of were more open, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like even when
whatever.
there's more accessible like death metal albums, I think people like death metalers will get mad that it's like that it's I don't know, that it doesn't sound like shit.
Yeah.
It's like I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's like I don't know if you don't like the new Gatekeeper album just because it's like more melodic and stuff like that. It's like, well, they wanted to make a more melodic album, so they made a more melodic album. I mean, you know what? It's better. So
Yeah,
like
man. I agree, man. And same with Blood Incantation, where like, they
yeah.
got a ton of people who are like, fucking hipster metal. It's like, it's I
I don't
don't know,
even know how to
man.
describe that. Like, I mean, what even is hipster metal? It's just I think they're just making the music they want to make, and if people like it, they like it, and if they don't, they don't. So
Yeah,
I
just
don't
because
know.
it's unique, it's like I don't know, man. I feel like people are like the whatever the whole Paul Bailoff thing was, it's kind of turned into like this really like fucked up perspective, I think.
Yeah. Well, and
But
then there's a lot of things of like people will, I know, especially like I don't know, black and death metal fans will look at bands that are a lot more visually inclined. I mean, I guess Ghost is an example, but not even necessarily within that, but people who use like pageantry and have more to their imagery, and the imagery is a big part of the sound. Like, I mean, again, like Imperial Triumphant, that's a good example. Um, I don't I've always like I see people who are like, well, it should be about the music. It's like, okay, well, it is about the music. It's just that there's an extra dimension to it. And I don't see why that hinders the music at all. I've always kind of thought, well, that gives me more to look at, you know, it gives me
Yeah.
more to appreciate about it. Like Portal is another example that's always done that well. Um, and you know, I don't know. I never get that. Well, it should just be about the music. It's like, but it doesn't have to be. And I think opens up a lot more doors if it isn't just about the music. Not that that's a problem. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people who are, you know, they don't really the visuals aren't much of a thing, and that's fine. But, you know, I mean, if I
Yeah.
have my way about it, it will be more of a thing, especially if I get hired by those bands. But, you know, yeah.
Yeah, and and people who also like gatekeep corpse paint and stuff. It's like I don't know,
No.
man. It doesn't really with Kiss existing, it's just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
make any
no.
sense. It's like and people were that was the big thing with Ghost, you know. It's like they shouldn't be. It's like literally Kiss, you
Yeah, and
know,
Alice Cooper and
Alice
like, you know,
Cooper, great
Arthur
example.
Brown and I like
Yeah,
all those it's just wearing makeup is not technically has nothing to do with your music. So it's funny too, because you always think that people are over that stuff, and it's like, all right, we're past that. And then you always see it happening in real time still, and then it's like, oh my God, you know.
it's a headache.
So yeah, usually it just ends up being more about like, you know, queer slurs and things like that.
Yeah.
But like people usually just end up being either really racist or homophobic or something, and that's usually what it boils down to. Or misogynist. You know, like
Unfortunately,
people will
yeah.
shit on like Holder and stuff just because, you know, it's a female fronted band, and it's like, all right. And they'll say it's not about that, but it absolutely is about that, you
100%
know.
is Crypta, another
Yeah,
unfortunate,
yeah. People were really bad to Mirka, I remember when she started out, you know, and
really.
oh yeah, I mean she's a and cool thing about her is she's very much like her own thing now. It's not just like the black metal sound. Her last album was, I think, very just its own sound. It wasn't like one thing or another, so that was cool. I know I'm excited. She's doing backup vocals for King Diamond on his tour, and oh.